Okay, you most welcome once again. My name is David, and I just want to talk about some few things here and there. And basically, today we are going to talk about epinephrine and norepinephrine. My name is David, and I'm representing the Science Theater of Uganda. Yeah, we're always online, we're always on YouTube. Please always follow us, and you will be blessed. Now, today I want to talk about norepinephrine and epinephrine, what you can call adrenaline and noradrenaline. The body, these two hormones are released, and they are catecholamines. They are released by cells of the adrenomedulla. Adrenomedulla is the central portion of suprarenal glands. These glands exist at the top of the kidney, yeah, and they are called adrenal glands. They separate their central part, called the adrenomedulla, separates the catecholamines, of which the two is adrenaline and noradrenaline. Yeah. What stimulates the release of these two hormones? They are released by chromatin cells. But what stimulates the release? Basically, when you look at the body, in terms of stress, yeah, when you have stress can be biological, can be chemical, can be physical. Now, when you have stress like you have hypoglycemia, when you have things like hypovolemia, you have things like you just anticipate some harm. Yes, you anticipate harm. You encounter harm. Yeah, your body is anxious. And when you have stress like anoxia, you don't respire. Stress like dyspnea, you have hypoxia. There are very many stress to the body. But now, when you have that, the hypothalamus is responsible for receiving that stimulus from everywhere around the body. And now, when it gets the information, it sets on it has a posterior nucleus. And posterior nucleus is responsible for the sympathetic discharge you get. And that sympathetic discharge will play a role. It will send signals down from higher centers down to, from the hypothalamus down to the spinal cord. Now, when those signals from hypothalamus reach the spinal cord, there will be signals about the autonomic nervous system. It means they reach the region of the spinal cord, which we call the intermediolateral horn of the spinal cord. It is a part of the gray horn, but around there where the dorsal horn and the ventral horn do join, there is a horn in the middle around there, and it's called the intermediolateral horn. And that horn, it has cells, it has its neurons, it has cell bodies of these neurons of the sympathetic nervous system. And it means those are the preganglionic fibers, and the medulla will act as the ganglion in this case. So the preganglionic fibers from the intermediolateral horn will be transmitting the signal. The cell body in the intermediolateral horn taking the signal of stress, signal about stress that we now talking now. This signal can go through the splanchnic nerves. As it goes through the splanchnic nerves, it will be reaching the adrenomedulla, the chromatin cells. And at that point, it will release acetylcholine, and acetylcholine will stimulate release of the hormones which were already stored in the vesicles. You get it? These hormones are synthesized by those cells and they store in the vesicles. Synthesis occurs in several stages, and by the time the signal comes, there are already hormones in the vesicles. You get it? These hormones are synthesized from tyrosine, and as we call that pathway, we have tyrosine hydroxylase, which forms dopa, L-dopa, and L-dopa is decarboxylated to dopamine. Dopamine, we have an enzyme which uses ascorbic acid, and it's called dopamine beta hydroxylase. That adds an OH group at a certain carbon, and it will make it to be called norepinephrine. And norepinephrine, to convert it to epinephrine, norepinephrine has a methyl group. That's a methyl group, that same carbon which has a OH. So when you add a methyl group around there, it becomes epinephrine. So a methyl group is added by an enzyme called phenylethanolamine and methyltransferase. That enzyme adds a methyl group to make norepinephrine become epinephrine. But that's not the point here. I want us to look at how is it important clinically. Usually, when you have stress, the signals come, acetylcholine has reached the chromatin cells, the vesicles are released. And these things happen, for example, in hypoglycemia, only adrenomedulla will respond to that. And it responds how? When you have hypoglycemia, that in hypoglycemia. But other stress, you will find that not only adrenomedulla, even the sympathetic system in its area there, to be stimulated, that the ganglia, the sympathetic ganglia, will be releasing acetylcholine. Now the neurons from sympathetic ganglia will release norepinephrine, which will act at the site of release. For example, if it is in the heart, it will act at the site of release. Yes, but epinephrine, when released from adrenomedulla, it can travel a long distance, and it does. That's what it does. It travels a long distance to a point somewhere where it has its target cells. And those are adrenergic receptors, alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha 3. Alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3 receptors. So, what am I talking about now? But when you have hypoglycemia will basically cause adrenomedulla only, and no need to influence the sympathetic ganglia. You get? Yeah. So adrenomedulla will release in terms of hypoglycemia, release the catecholamines, and basically in blood we usually find a lot of like 300 pages per minute. We usually find a lot of norepinephrine in blood. But when it comes to time of stress, you wonder that epinephrine is more effective. And those receptors I talked about, the alpha receptors basically are excitatory in their action, except they have a major inhibitory role, which is inhibiting GIT motility. Whereas the beta receptors are majorly inhibitory, but they have an important role of exciting the heart, and that is increasing contractility through beta 1 receptors. But majorly they are inhibitory, the beta, and the excitatory are majorly alpha. Yeah, I'm still continuing. How is it important? Usually, after release of vesicles of norepinephrine in hypoglycemia, this hormone will go to they've released the epinephrine, it will go into blood and will stimulate a lot of functions. I can call it, we are trying to bring in glucose. So we don't have glucose now, we need glucose. What will it do? It will cause gluconeogenesis, forming glucose from things like lactate and glycerols. And you obtain glycerol by lipolysis, so there will be increasing lipolysis and gluconeogenesis. Glycogen will be broken down to provide the glucose which is required by the brain to remain active when you're in stress, and by other responsible tissues like the liver. Yeah. So it will increase. It has a lot of effects on carbohydrates, yeah, that is why it does. But I want to go back to the point of clinical point. What am I talking about? In terms of shock, when you have shock, when you have hypovolemic shock or shock, let me call it shock, circulatory shock. When you have shock in the body, they usually give you norepinephrine but not epinephrine. Why is it like that? This is the reason. When there is epinephrine will go to the heart, and that is released by beta. When it goes to the heart, it acts via beta 1 receptors, and those beta 1 receptors are important, that they will increase contractility of the heart, and that will increase diastolic. Yes, it will increase diastolic blood pressure. It will increase systolic blood pressure as we increase contractility of the heart. But now, that is through beta 1. When we use norepinephrine, that is what it has done, the epinephrine. Increase contractility of the heart through beta 1 receptors. It has excited that system of SAM and contractility has increased. But now, the difference between epinephrine and norepinephrine is that norepinephrine, if we use it to treat shock, it will not only act on the heart, but it will also act on peripheral vessels. And in the vessels, it has the alpha 1 receptors. Those receptors, recall we said norepinephrine is reached at the site of action. So it means the sympathetic nervous system, which is attached to the vessels, to the blood vessels, will release norepinephrine. And norepinephrine will cause contraction of the heart. Not of the heart. It will cause constriction of blood vessels. The smooth muscle cells will, via the alpha 1 receptors, yes, that is GCHO, yeah, via the GCHO, coupled protein receptors, that is alpha 1 receptors. It will cause constriction of blood vessels. When you constrict blood vessels, it means you are increasing venous return, but you are also increasing mean arterial pressure, you get? And when you increase blood pressure, when you increase VR, you are increasing diastolic blood pressure, yes? But that is when you have acted on the peripheral blood vessels. Peripheral blood vessels, you've ended up having diastolic blood pressure increasing. But how does it increase systolic blood pressure? It does like epinephrine. That this time around, it is also going to use the beta 1 receptors, and beta 1 receptors to increase contractility of the heart, and the result is increasing systolic blood pressure. But now this one gives an extremely increased blood pressure, and the baroreceptors in the carotid sinuses and the aortic arch, those baroreceptors will receive the signals about highly increased blood pressure, and as they go to the hypothalamus, to the cardiovascular or vasomotor center, we shall end up having reduced. There is a reflex. That reflex comes to reduce the blood pressure, which had gone high due to norepinephrine we administered during the treatment of shock. So it means the reflex activity will cause a decrease in blood pressure. Therefore, I come to inform you that basically the result of norepinephrine, not epinephrine, but the result of norepinephrine administered in shock will be decreasing blood pressure. You get it? Yeah, it is because it is rising blood pressure by too high that baroreceptors receive the signal and cause reflex fall in blood pressure, fall in contraction of the heart, and cause dilation of blood vessels. Thank you for following. That's the end of today. Keep on subscribing. Never forget to subscribe. I didn't write anything today, but I know you understood. You got my point. We were discussing me and you. We are discussing everywhere you are. Those around here, you're most welcome. We are going to go to the next lecture. Okay, stay good. God is real. God is risen.